Welcome to the Create Your Happy podcast, where the mission is to empower women in their journey of self-discovery. Here we explore how to fully embrace our humanness, find our unique voice, and understand that through unconditional love and conscious relationships, we have the power to change the world. I'm your host, Christy Holt, your one and only happiness hussy, adventure guide, and conscious funpreneur. I'm on a heartfelt mission to change the world one beautiful soul at a time. Are you ready to elevate your relationships to the next level? I've got you. It's time for a messy fucking beautiful adventure. It's time to create your happy. Hey, incredible human. I am super excited today to share a crucial step in our journey towards self-love and authenticity and towards creating those healthy and happy relationships that we all desire. Now, if you want to resuscitate your relationship to truly light the fire of passion, stay tuned because the actions that you need to take might just surprise you. So perhaps you've tried to get the spark back in your relationship, but to no avail. But have you tried this? In this episode, we are going to explore how setting boundaries is not just a defensive act of protection, but a proactive step towards honoring your true self and creating the meaningful relationships that you desire. Now, are you ready to become a boundary boss? Boundaries are a necessary expression of your authentic self. Here's why. Boundaries serve us inwardly by creating a distinction between where we end and others begin. And they also serve us by creating a clear roadmap, one that we can use to show others who are coming to look to be in a deeper connection with us. This is a clarification on what it is that we need, what it is that we desire, and of course, what it is that we will not tolerate. It helps us to clarify our own standards for the creation that we decide that we want to make. Now, it is taking radical responsibility. You do have to stand in your power to create the experiences that you most desire in life. This is not going to happen from sitting back on autopilot watching life pass us by. And boundaries are absolutely crucial, especially if we desire to create happy and healthy lives for ourselves. We just simply cannot live a fully authentic life without the expression of healthy boundaries. So why is it so damn hard to access boundaries, you might wonder? Well, boundaries is somewhat of a relatively new concept, really just in the last few decades. And quite frankly, we're all still figuring out how to navigate them. We aren't really taught emotional regulation or boundary setting in school. And in fact, in school, we were probably mainly taught to conform and to obey, which is actually part of the problem here too with this inability to set boundaries. So, we were actually taught in the opposite direction to serve ourselves. And not only were we taught that, but we were taught that self-care is selfish and that vulnerability is a weakness, and also that we have to earn our validation and approval and love and happiness by receiving it from others. So here we go. We get on the fucking hamster wheel. We chase that happiness mirage for years, maybe decades even, wondering why does true happiness just continuously seem to evade us? Now, more and more people are living in a state of dysregulation, overwhelm, and chronic stress, pain, and illness. Too many people are struggling, and yet they don't see a way out. They feel like everything is happening to them, that the world is actually conspiring to make their experience awful. And if this has happened to you, or if you're currently feeling this kind of helplessness, I see you. Your brain is working so hard to keep you safe, and yet mostly what it's doing is keeping you stuck. And I want to reassure you that, first off, you are never, ever helpless, because even when it feels like you have no fucking choice in the entire world, you do always have the choice of how you will respond. Now, when we're living in survival mode, it very often doesn't feel like we have a choice. It actually can feel like we are completely trapped and our hands are tied, and we can end up acting and reacting from our past traumas and from our pain, all without a single intentional thought. And when we're caught in this cycle, we also often then suffer with guilt and shame on the back end. This one we do to ourselves as well. A huge double whammy. And one of the reasons that we often feel frustrated, bitter, resentful, or unappreciated is often due to one of a few boundary problems. Number one could be a lack of clarity around your boundaries. Maybe you still don't quite know what they are. Number two is a lack of communication of your boundaries. And number three is potentially a follow-through, upholding and reacting in the way that you promised when boundaries are crossed. Now, this work is no one else but yours. And this is the catch, because no one else can do it. And now, if you're not up for the task of setting boundaries, you certainly can't expect to experience something differently. What you can expect is to experience more and more of the same. So if you don't set the boundaries, you stay stuck. You hate the way that you are treated, but it doesn't feel like you have a choice to change it. I get it, but you do. And isn't it just about time that you discovered why you have been getting your own damn way for so long? Enter people-pleasing. Now, I talked about this a couple episodes ago, and I want to just remind you here that those who struggle to set boundaries are exhibiting a people-pleasing pattern. For more depth on people-pleasing, please check out episode 7. But for now, I'm going to give you a little overview of people-pleasing, just as it relates to this particular conversation. Now, people-pleasing is way more than just being nice. It's a habit that's deep-seated or rooted in fear of abandonment and a desire to be constantly valued. Now, these aren't terrible desires, but this habit can actually lead us to lose touch with our authentic selves. And what happens is that we end up always adapting ourselves to please others, and it results in abandonment of self as we bend over completely backwards to make others happy. Now, if you have been experiencing frustration, resentment, or disappointment, it's likely that you might have a people-pleasing or boundary problem. And if you haven't already, you'll want to be sure to tune into that episode which I mentioned, because I discuss in great details how these people-pleasing habits can really be impacting your relationships. As always, awareness is a huge first step to shifting your habits, patterns, and beliefs and mindsets into those that will help us to not only feel better, but will also allow us to act in a way that feels truly fulfilling. Now, here is the true nature of boundaries, because it seems like there could be some confusion. Boundaries are our personal guides, our way of communicating, our way of telling others what we need, and our way of actually showing respect to and for ourselves. They're not about blocking other people out or cutting people off, although sometimes that is the necessary outcome. Boundaries aren't simply an expression of your preferences or opinions. Rather, they're a communication about what you need to feel safe, respected, and valued. They are an invitation meant for those who are to be in our inner circle, an instruction manual, if you will, for creating deeper and more meaningful connection with others. And those who truly love you will feel even more connected to you when they gain this greater understanding of your deepest needs and expressions. And this allows more space for authentic connection and expression for both of you. It's important to remember that those who cannot or simply will not respect your boundaries are quite simply just not a fit. They're not someone who is meant to be in a deeper connection with you, and that's okay. The only way that you make it not okay is to decide that you are not okay without them, and you keep them around, and they continue hurting you until you've reached a point in your journey where you have just fucking had enough, the final straw. But a big part of healthy boundary setting is actually about self-discovery. I mean, how can you set boundaries when you yourself don't have clarity on what it is that you desire, that which feels good to you, those things that will feel truly fulfilling, that will be aligned and expansive and harmonious in your life? Now, when is the last time that you truly asked yourself what it is that you truly want? When is the last time that you spoke up for yourself, despite the chance that you might disappoint someone else? And when was the last time that you asserted yourself and held yourself in that moment with compassion rather than letting the guilt and shame pile on for choosing yourself. Now, if any of this has happened to you, I want to remind you that it's not your fault. This is simply faulty programming, and it's actually time to erase the errors that it's creating in your life so that you can start creating a new program, one that supports you living your best life and having the best relationships. The solution? Healthy boundaries with copious amounts of self-compassion and unconditional love, of course. Now, unconditional love could not exist without boundaries, for when you allow others to cross your boundaries by tolerating or settling for less than your expectations, you are no longer unconditionally loving yourself. Unconditional love and acceptance always starts from within and will never, ever require you to abandon yourself.
Calling all strong women. Are you trapped in a cycle of people-pleasing? Are you tired of saying yes when you really mean no? Have you been living for everyone but yourself? Welcome to Authenticity Unleashed. Imagine a life where you call the shots. Imagine living truly happy and free. Authenticity Unleashed was designed just for you, so that you can create the life and relationships that you desire and deserve. Picture setting boundaries without guilt and building relationships that truly lift you up. Ready for a new adventure? Register now and start your journey to a more authentic you. Craving more personalized support? Upgrade now and get tailored one-on-one guidance. Your life, your rules, your moment to shine. This is your Authenticity Unleashed.
Now let's take a quick peek into a few different types of boundaries so that you might just increase your knowledge around what kind of boundaries you might need to be setting. First of all, physical boundaries, which are about respecting your own body and space, are super important because these allow you to find the crucial balance between being overly focused on your physical self and, on the other hand, completely neglecting your own bodily needs. And as humans, we do tend to swing to one side or the other. So how can we find a harmonious balance in the middle? You may ask yourself, what kinds of touch feel good to you? What sort of things make you feel uncomfortable in your body? What about your nutrition? What about your boundaries around your own nourishment? What is your relationship with your body like? Some questions to ponder around physical boundaries. Second, we have resource boundaries. Now, this is about the balance in giving rather than draining ourselves by overextending ourselves, giving too much of our resources, our time, our energy, our materials for support. And this relates to our choice, being free to choose the things that we want to do. Now, many of us have been led to believe that we can't have this freedom without giving up. And usually we feel like that giving up is just far too much. And that's just simply not true. You can actually give in a way that feels both good to you without draining yourself, without sacrificing yourself in the process, and still providing the nurturing and care to others that you desire to give. And of course, the physical and the resource boundaries both tie into our mental and emotional boundaries, which involves protecting our mental space and our emotional landscape. Now, we must learn how to be empathetic without absorbing others' feelings. Essentially, we need to become aware of where we are conforming to groupthink, and we simply owe it to ourselves to remain curious, leaning into our own unique perspectives and feelings. Yes, you fucking maverick, you. I know that you have unique perspectives and feelings. Will you dare let them out? When you are able to create the required safety through setting healthy boundaries, you'll actually be able to hold a much greater range of emotions and experiences. And guess what? You'll also get comfortable navigating life's discomfort, which means you'll be able to live more consistently in your intended state, which is one of happiness, bliss, joy, peace. That's right, your natural state is to feel good. And the biggest thing to keep in mind is that in order to reach this natural state, we don't need to add more things. We don't need to do more things. We don't need to get there. In fact, what we need is to subtract, unlearn, and clear away that which is preventing us from seeing our true nature. Now, I know that a lot of people really struggle with guilt when setting boundaries. And it's essential to remember here that we can be considerate of others' feelings, absolutely, but we're not responsible for them. Our primary responsibility is to our own well-being. And besides this, not only can you handle a little bit of disappointment, but other people easily can too. You're a whole ass human. So why not allow yourself to take up some damn space, will ya? Stop stifling your magic. Stop settling for and tolerating less than your magnificent ass deserves. You deserve the fucking moon. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. Now, guilt and shame are natural trauma responses based on most often experiences that you had growing up. Meaning, they likely happened without the intention that these patterns would result in this sort of subconscious autopilot programming. So it's not your fault. And in fact, I completely believe that no matter what happened, you were doing the very best that you could at the time of the initial experience, given the resources and understanding that you had at the time. And I know that perhaps now you know better and you can do better. But holding on to the guilt and shame over things that have already happened is only going to keep you stuck. The truth is that which you resist persists. So that's why it feels like a perpetual Groundhog Day. Same shit, different pile. It just keeps happening, and every instance feels like even more confirmation that you're still not good enough, right? Again, lies. Because you are more than good enough. You're simply stuck on autopilot mode. And since it's, the autopilot mode goal is mere survival, thriving is simply out of the question. Survival mode is about efficiency and zoning in and only doing what's essential. Your brain is essentially on power save mode when you're in survival. And in that case, it's not fired up. It's not ready to work on all cylinders. It's not ready to work for you, and it's not ready to come up with the creative solutions that you deserve. So on this note, having clarity and a clear plan for upholding your boundaries is not something that you can actually come up with in the moment. This shift actually requires some intention setting and communication, ideally happening in moments where you are feeling really calm, at peace, and level-headed. When you're not in survival mode, this is where the most ideal and creative solutions can be created. Now, if you're still coming up short in the boundary game, if you're experiencing multiple repeat offenses by boundary crossers, I want you to ask yourself first, where might I be crossing my own boundaries? Where am I not following through with my own word to myself? Where might I be lacking self-trust? And then where might I be tolerating or not communicating clearly with others? First, looking at yourself before looking at others. This is radical responsibility and a clear path to you standing in your power. Now, all of this said, you absolutely do not deserve under any circumstances to be mistreated. And boundaries serve as a way to steer clear of and also quickly evacuate situations where you are very clearly being mistreated. Now, this is not always easy. Life rarely is always easy. But the more practice you do, the easier it will get. And the freedom and peace of mind that result will be well worth any perceived loss. Now, besides, people who aren't willing or aren't able to respect your clearly communicated boundaries likely don't respect themselves nor your relationship. And I know it's not always that simple, especially when you're stuck in the muck, but those feelings and the lives that are involved really can complicate things. But not communicating your boundaries is causing you to continue having the challenges that you currently are having. So maybe it's time to try something new. Now, another thing to remember, and this can be tricky as well, but other people don't have to adhere to your boundaries, just like you don't have to adhere to theirs. But when other people cannot or will not, it is simply a waste of your precious energy to argue against, fight against, or be angry with them. Your feelings are completely valid, absolutely, because you do not deserve to be mistreated or abused. However, as I shared earlier in the season on episode 6, we simply do not have the power to directly change another human. So let's focus here on you. Because standing in your power means no more tolerating less than ideal situations, no more settling for being treated in ways that feel awful to you. It's time to make a shift. It's time to start living a life that feels authentically yours. Living in a way that not only makes you truly fucking happy, but in a way that also allows your peace and confidence to permeate all of the relationships that you have, transforming them as if by mere magic. Now, boundaries can be a truly game-changing solution that reignites the spark in your relationship. So let's dive into a quick practical exercise. This one is about identifying and setting a small boundary in your life. Here's how you can approach it. First, take a moment to reflect on your daily interactions. Think about your day-to-day life and consider where may you feel overextended or uncomfortable. It could be constantly checking work emails at home, agreeing to favors that you don't actually have time for, or even tolerating behavior from other people that just simply doesn't sit well with you. Once you've had a moment to reflect, perhaps identify one specific area. Choose one area that you've noticed you are overextending yourself. Now, this could be something small and manageable to get started. For example, maybe you'll decide that not responding to work emails after a certain time in the evening, or saying no to an additional commitment, or asking for some alone time is in order. Sometimes it is easy to identify the boundary problems based on the areas where we might be feeling resentful or disappointed. The key thing here is to articulate the boundary that you wish to set first for yourself. Write it down. And this can even help you get a little bit more clarity. Now, being really clear about what the boundary is and why it's important to your well-being will be crucial. So, for instance, I will not check my work emails after 8 p.m. because I need time to unwind and be with my family before bedtime. Getting really clear will help you to communicate those boundaries to others as well. Now, the next piece is planning how you're going to communicate it, right? If you thought the next step was going to be communicating it, you would be wrong. First step is to create an intention. Because if your boundary involves another person, you want to think about how you're going to communicate it to them. For example, choose a time where you are both calm. Don't do it when you're in the middle of a disagreement. When you deliver, be direct, be kind. For example, you might tell them, I've realized that I need more quiet time in the evenings in order to recharge. I'm going to start turning my phone off at 8 p.m. Simple, straightforward, calm, and yet kind. The next piece is to start implementing this boundary. And as you do so, I want you to really notice how it makes you feel. Do you feel guilty? Perhaps you feel relieved. Or maybe you feel some sort of inner turmoil, some anxiety around it. What I want you to do here is not judge your emotions, but simply observe them without judgment. Instead, I want you to give yourself compassion and grace, because whatever you're experiencing right now, whatever response is, doesn't mean anything about you. It's merely information. It's important to not over-identify with the thoughts, judgments, and stories in your mind that do not serve you. And as a general rule, the one that I like to use, that is, if a thought is rooted in fear, it's not going to serve you. So instead, choose love. The final step to this week's practical exercise is a small reflection piece. So after a few days of practicing this boundary, choosing yourself, choosing love, I want you to take some time to journal about your experience. What did you notice? How has it affected your daily life? How have others around you responded? And what might you have really learned about yourself through this process? Remember, it's okay if you didn't get it right the first time, because setting boundaries is a skill that gets stronger with practice. It's okay if it feels uncomfortable or awkward at first. The goal here is just to start small and gradually build your confidence and assert your needs. For those of you who wish to explore this topic further or get even more additional support, my program, Authenticity Unleashed, offers deeper insights into recognizing and asserting your boundaries, helping you to create and live a more authentic life. Isn't it about time that you start creating the healthy, loving relationships that you deserve? Now, properly set boundaries can literally transform your relationships. Ultimately, they allow us to interact with others authentically, fostering deeper and more meaningful connections. And embracing boundaries is a powerful step in your self-discovery and empowerment journey. This is about learning to prioritize your needs and communicate them effectively. This will allow you to confidently create the life and relationships that make you truly fucking happy. And of course, I'm going to throw some extra resources that are available for you down in the show notes below. I've got the People Pleasers Path to Freedom ebook and masterclass. And if you'd like to get more tailored for you support, I implore you to reach out because I have multiple packages available for you. Now, coming up in the next episode, it's going to be all about understanding the relationship paradox and embracing duality in relationship, balancing commitment and safety with the desire for passion and growth. Now, if you have questions or topics that you'd love to see covered on this season, I would love to hear from you. If you're loving the show, please leave a review on your favorite platform. And of course, don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Create Your Happy podcast for even more empowering discussions. All right, gorgeous human, it's time to get out there and boldly embrace the messy fucking beautiful adventure that is life. I love you. Now let's go do some epic shit, shall we?
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I trust you were inspired to take back your power and create your happy. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to hear from you. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with the women in your life who could use a little more inspiration today. If you'd like to connect or explore the additional resources mentioned in this episode, you can find those details and links in the show notes below. As always, get out there, have fun, be you, and create your happy.